We'll discuss about the scope of history. In my previous class, I was discussing the nature of history, the definition and nature of history. But if we discuss about the scope of history, you can find different definitions also. So today, first of all, we have to know what is historiography. Then we have to discuss about the scope of history. So far, the matter is concerned, what is historiography? First point, that historiography, as you know, what is the meaning of historiography? It is a literary means, the art of writing history. Historiography means the art of writing history, and it is history of history or history of historical writings. Then why we study historiography? Historiography tells the story of the successive stages of the evolution or the development of the historical writings. So, it means historiography deals with an important perspectives, that is the art of writing. So ultimately, it comprises the study of the development of man's sense of the past. Means the historical writing. If we discuss about the historical writings of the Italian Renaissance, during the time of Italian Renaissance, particularly that of March, that is during the time of Machiavelli, represented a harsh reaction to religion influence in history writings. So the religious, ultimately what happened, the religions are also influencing how to write an effective history. So historical writings. So historiography as a special branch of history and stresses the changes through the centuries. In the meantime, what happened? History, the historian's reconstruction of the past. If somebody asks you a question, that is, what is the importance of historiography and what do you mean by history? Again, I'm explaining that history is the historian's reconstruction of the past. And if we discuss about historiography, it means the art of writing, as I have already noted. So in this juncture, they serve him as evidence of the facts that he establishes. So without facts and evidences, we can't write the history. So the records, are most important part, and without records, it can't possible to do the research, it can't possible to write the history without the records. What are the records and what is records? Records means the variety types of, evidences and facts should be collected. All you know, that is the inscription, the medals, the coins, the buildings, the art, the architecture, the private letters, official correspondences. These are important evidences. These are the important things. When we're writing history, we have to collect the adequate evidences and facts. Then history deals with evidence, hence dictum no records means no history. If there's no records, it means there's no history. So records are most indispensable. If you want to write history, if the historians are writing the history, the records are most important part. But without records, it can't possible to write history. So in this way, The historian should aim at presenting as a picture of the past as possible. So the technique evolved, that to arrive at the truth of past events is called historical method. If somebody asks a question, that what do you mean by historical method? Because as you know, what is historiography and what is history, and we have to discuss about the historical methodology. What is historical method? Historical method means the technique. Okay, the technique evolved to arrive at the truth of a past events. If you don't use the technique, means you can't write, you can't apply the methods. Methods means what? If you want to do research, what is methodology? Different types of methods, descriptive techniques, explorative techniques, random sampling, different types of techniques we're applying when we're going to do research. Then we have to apply different techniques. If you don't apply the techniques, it can't possible to do the research. If you want to do the research, then ultimately we have to imitate the technique. And that's why the technique evolved to arrive at the truth of a past events is called historical methods. In my previous class, I was also discussing what is history according to J.B. Bury. J.B. Bury.
History is a science, no less, no more.
Yes. So when did he raised the voice and he defined the word that is history to be science, no less, no more. When did it explain? J.B. Bury had clearly mentioned during the time of inaugural lecture at Cambridge University, when he had delivered the lecture at Cambridge University at the time, he had pointed out that history to be a science, no less, no more. That is the most important part of the historical things. But we have to explain the scope of history, as you know, is a vast. The scope of history is a very vast. And it is the theory of man in relation to totality of his behavior. What do you mean by the scope? The scope of history means, please listen carefully. The scope of history means the breadth, the comprehensiveness, variety, and extent of learning experiences and provided by the study. Understood my point? What do you mean by the scope of history? Once again, I'm repeating that the scope of history means the breadth. Breadth means what? The extent of something from side to side. So the scope of history means the breadth, comprehensive, variety, and extent of learning experiences and provided by the study. So, history which was only limited to a local saga or as a during the course of century become the universal history of mankind. So, for the matter is concerned, the scope of history is very much important thing. And history of culture, history of literature, history of civilization, these points are most valuable for the scope of history. That is, history of culture, history of literature, history of civilization, history of religion, history of mathematics, history of physics, history of chemistry, history of education, or the history of biology, or history of atom, or history of philosophy. In fact, history of any or every social, physical, or natural science were interested in history today has become, an all-embracing, comprehensive subject with almost limitless extent. It means We can find history in every
ନା
subject,
ନା
which I've already mentioned. Understood my point? So,
ସିଏ ନୁହେଁ ସିଏ ଅର୍ଗାନାଇଜ
I have already discussed in my previous class
ଗୋଟେ ଗୋଟେ ସ୍ପେଶାଲ ଟପିକରେ କ୍ଲାସ୍ କରିବା ପାଇଁ
that according to Bisakali, what is the opinion of Bisakali about the scope of history? If somebody asks a question, what is the scope of history? What is scope of history? Scope of history means it has been widened and new areas are included it. And history is gradually assuming all the three dimensions. If we discuss about the scope of history, we have to follow three important dimensions. What are they? As its main job is to narrate. What happened in my previous class, I was also discussing. What happened to discuss how it happened and to analyze or analysis, most important part. And why it happened? Three things. In the scope of history, we find three important dimensions. Are you writing? Your students, are you writing? Please write down. Three important dimensions. I have already discussed in the previous class. Three important dimensions in the scope of history. That is, what happened, how it happened, and why it happened. Are you audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So the scope of history means it is widened, number one. Yes.
Sir, I can repeat.
Okay. The main and important objective scope of history, what happened, to discuss how it happened and to analyze and why it happened. It is growing in its extent as well. Or three important dimensions you may write. What happened, how it happened, and why it happened. Understood my point? So history is one of the oldest subject, as you know. And in ancient period there were only some good historians and their writings were only limited to a few words, military achievement, religion, etc. Only some of the particular events were recorded by them, and mostly their historical works were confirmed and in praise of the kings who patronized them. So the area of history had not much scope, but nowadays the situation has undergone a great change and the scope of history has widened. So far the matter is concerned, why we say that the scope of history is so widened? Because those historians are writing history and many archaeologists, they are also trying to excavate some evidences and facts for writing history. That's why I say the study of history is widened and the scope of history is very much widened, because the historian's responsibility how to collect the data. After collecting the data, then we may interpret the data. After interpretations, it's an interpretation how could it and how we interpret the data through the scientific man or scientific process. So as the society developed, the scope of history has been undergoing the constant change, It's a dynamic system. Dynamic system means what? The changing system. What is change? What the change is most important part in history. Because as the society developed, the scope of history has been undergoing constant. There are three important aspects. Okay. Again, the same things. Three important aspects, the same things. First, to record what happened, we have to record. It's a responsibility to, first to record what has happened Second,
email টা login করো না
why it happened, and third, how did it happen? Okay. So first of all, record what has happened. Second, why and how did it happen, and the third, how it has happened.
এই লিংকটা আমি পঠিয়ে দেবি গ্রুপে
Same dimension, same perspective, same aspects of the scope of history. So in this way, again, I want to discuss about the scope of history is now comprehensive, because every aspect of human activities is covered. So in this way, now the historians are studying the government laws, the legends, the folklore, the art, and they also cover every phenomena, whether philosophical, material, or emotional, or social,
গুগল লিংক
or
মানে পাসওয়ার্ডটা ওটা মানে
political,
এটা কোড
which has concern with man. It means the main concern of a historian is to study the human achievement. The main objective of the historian, and the historians are always indulging how to collect the accurate data.
ଗୋଟେ মেথড আছে
After collecting the accurate data, then the historians are trying to interpret the data in a very, very systematic way, in a very systematic manner.
তোমার ইমেলটা
And the historians are always trying to
ঘন্টার ভিতরে হয়তো ওটা মেসেজ
give information about the achievements of the human being,
মতে কোন
or to study human achievements.
তা পাসওয়ার্ড বি মনে নাই
The main focus and the main objective of the historian. And in this regard, what happened? It is a science, technology, or invention. So, if it's not satisfied only by describing the role of dynasties, but he also studied the art, science, and economics, and the whole scope of his study has become a comprehensive, that no activity of human being is left untouched. So the historians are always trying to touch, our historians are always trying to cover every aspect of the study. So in the present age, the micro history writing has gained significance, and the scholars are now attracted by the intensive study of rural system and institutions. So far, the historians also show their interest in labor movements, or the struggle, the craft, the industry, and the changes of the society. Okay, and in various perspectives we can find. Understood my point? So, according to Trevelyan कौन कहले scope of history पे? What is the opinion of Trevelyan? Trevelyan says that a historian is required to perform three important functions. What are they? Number one, the scientific function. Number two, the imaginative function. Number three, the literary function. Understood my point? Have you written? So three important functions of.
Please sir, repeat again.
According to Trevelyan, 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 a historian is required to perform three functions. Which include scientific, number one scientific, number two imaginative, number three literary. So these three important functions for a historian, or for a historian, three important functions. That is scientific function, imaginative function, then literary function. Understood my point? So now what happened? The scope of history covers all aspects of mankind, whether it is nature or may say that is man. In fact, what happened? The scope of history covers all aspects of mankind, whether it is nature or man. In fact, the study of nature has significant role in the history because, as you know, the scope of history has now widened after the discovery of many ancient coins and inscriptions. Could you understand my point? Why do we say that the scope of history is so widened? Because the scope of history has now widened after the discovery of many ancient coins and inscriptions. That's why we say that history, the scope of history is now widened. And these inscriptions pave the way for the widening the scope of history. Because we are also collecting many inscriptions, many data, many evidences, many facts for interpretation of history, for writing the history. After collecting the data, to interpret the data is most important and indispensable for any historian. That's why it has been clearly mentioned. These inscriptions pave the way for widening the scope of history. So in this what happened? The archaeologists, they are also collecting the evidences and the facts. And these provide an account of ancient man and his lifestyle. How could you get the information? How could you get the information about ancient culture, civilization, social life, political life, economic life of the people? How could you get information? We can say. How could it possible to get the information? Without excavation. Because archaeologists, they are also playing very important role to give you the adequate data, the information. Because without knowledge, without the information, we can't know or we never know. And we can't know about the ancient man, about the lifestyle, about the social life, cultural life, or economic life. So the archaeologists open the new grounds for historians through their excavations in many parts of the world. Could understand what I'm telling? Could understand what is the role of the archaeologist? Because we are discussing the scope of history. The scope of history means in the field of social life, economic life, political life, and what is the role of the archaeologist, and how the historians are collecting the data and interpreting the data. And after collecting the data, then the historian's role, the major role, how to interpret the data. After interpretation, then the historians are trying to write the history. They are also writing the history. And the archaeologists are also playing very important and pivotal role. Because the archaeologists open the new grounds for the historian through their excavations in many parts of the world. So they now conclude that human life could be traced back the period much earlier than the commonly held. Thus, the discoveries are responsible for the pushing back for the history by millions of years. It means the archaeologists are playing very important role. That's why we are telling the scope of history is so widened. ଆମେ ଖାଲି କହିବା ଐତିହାସିକ ମାନେ କାର୍ଯ୍ୟ କରୁଛନ୍ତି, ଫ୍ୟାକ୍ଟସ୍ ବା ଏଭିଡେନ୍ସ କଲେକ୍ଟ କରୁଛନ୍ତି, କିନ୍ତୁ ଆର୍କିଓଲୋଜିଷ୍ଟ ଯୋଉମାନେ, ପ୍ରତ୍ନତତ୍ତ୍ୱବିଦ ଯୋଉମାନେ, ସେମାନେ ମଧ୍ୟ ତାଙ୍କର ମେଜର ରୋଲ, ସେମାନେ ଏକ୍ସକାଭେସନ କରୁଛନ୍ତି। ଏକ୍ସକାଭେସନ କରି ପୁରୁଣା ଜିନିଷ ସବୁ, ପୁରୁଣା ଜିନିଷ କଣ? ପୁରୁଣା ମୂର୍ତ୍ତି, ପୁରୁଣା ପଥର ଆଣିକି ତାକୁ ଟେଷ୍ଟ କରାଯାଉଛି। ଟେଷ୍ଟ କରିକି ସେମାନେ ନୂଆ ନୂଆ ଜିନିଷକୁ କଣ କରୁଛନ୍ତି? ଡିସ୍କଭର କରୁଛନ୍ତି। ଆର୍କିଓଲୋଜିଷ୍ଟ ମାନେ ତାଙ୍କର ଭୂମିକା ମଧ୍ୟ ଅତ୍ୟନ୍ତ ଗୁରୁତ୍ୱପୂର୍ଣ୍ଣ। ତେଣୁ ଆମେ କହୁଛେ ଇତିହାସର ପରିସର ହଉଛି ବ୍ୟାପକ, ବୁଝିପାରୁଛ ପିଲାମାନେ? ଇତିହାସର ପରିସର ହଉଛି ବ୍ୟାପକ, କାରଣ ଇତିହାସ ଐତିହାସିକ ମାନଙ୍କର ରୋଲ, ଆର୍କିଓଲୋଜିଷ୍ଟ ମାନେ ସେମାନେ ବି ଐତିହାସିକ, ତାଙ୍କର ବି ରୋଲ ଅଛି। ତେଣୁ ଯଦି ଆମେ ଇତିହାସ ପଢିବା ତାର କଣ ହଉଛି, ଆମେ ଡିଫରେଣ୍ଟ ଡାଇମେନସନ୍ସ କୁ ଆମେ କଭର କରିବାକୁ ପଡିବ। That's why history now assuming a universal character. So because of the earlier world was divided into social, political, cultural units, and these units considered themselves superior. As civilizations of India, China, Iran considered themselves and superior than others. That's why after advancement of the communication and many countries of the world came closer to each other. In this way, they knew each other, and feeling of oneness developed. As a result, what happened? The unified culture developed, and the history assumed universal character. That's why the great historian, Professor Elton, according to Professor Elton, what is the opinion of history, the scope of history? According to Professor Elton, he rightly remarked, se kon koile na all good historical writing is universal history. Who said? Professor Elton. Professor Elton, yes, very important point that Mr. Professor Elton has rightly remarked, all good historical writing is universal history. All good historical writings is universal history in the sense that it remembers. In the sense that it remembers the universal while dealing with the part of it. Again, please write. All good historical writing is universal history in the sense that it remembers the universal while dealing with part of it. Okay? Okay?
Yes, sir.
So in this way, at present, the great emphasis is given on systematic and systematic and in a very, very, exhaustive collection of source material as well as adoption of a critical attitude in making their assessment. It means the systematic approach should be followed by the historian. Till the 19th century, the study of history is limited only to political events. But now, what happened? Now the social, moral, economic, literary life, cultural life, religious life of the people are also studied. You understand my point? Yes, sir. From the very beginning, what happened? Only the historians were writing the history about the political events. But now, the historians are also writing about social history, moral and economic history, literary life of the people, also studied. And at last, whole outlook, the approach has changed. They are moving towards close to common man. And the new concept of the historical, that is called relativism. Historical relativism. A new concept which was adopted. A new concept which is adopted, that is called historical relativism, has widened the scope of history. Could understand?
ଟିକେ ଆଉଥରେ ଏଟା ବୁଝେଇବେ କି ରିଲେଟିଭିଜମ ଉପରେ?
Okay.
अरे श्रुति जॉइन करछ.
Let's see just time to give example that when the historians from the very beginning, the historians are always concentrating to write the history, to write about the political history. But nowadays, what is happening? The historians are always trying to explain about the social history, economic history, and literary life of the people, moral character, the moral, economic, literary life of the people are also studied. And the historians are also writing the economic history, the social history as well. So in this way, what happened? At last, whole outlook and approach has changed. So they're moving towards close to common man. Understood my point? Not only the elitism, elite group. Elite means what? The some historians were also giving importance on what? The political life of the people, the political leaders, the achievement of the king, okay, the achievement of the top class people. But the historians had not given the importance on the common people. Okay, so far the matter is concerned, but the great men and the common men. The historians are giving importance both aspects. The political history, the social history, and the social history and the economic history. That's why it was called the new concept. That is called historical relativism. Buji could understand?
Yes, sir.
Given an example? Yes. Anybody? Relativism means, the link between, or the link among different perspectives. For example, the social history, economic history, political history, cultural history, religion history, different types of histories were also focusing on. The historians are also writing different histories. And the historians are always present historical events, but how they have paid attention on social, cultural, intellectual, economic, and world history. Could understand my point? Why it is called historical relativism? Because the historians always present the historical events, but how they have paid attention on social, cultural, intellectual, economic, and world history. So in the past, the historians recorded such as events which are the great importance, and they are also considered of a great significance. That's why they recorded those events which pleased the rulers. So the economic and international events didn't find much ground in history. In this way, religious, cultural, economic history was not recorded. So this presentation of the history is biased. So now historians touch all the aspects of life, and they collect the data and interpret them, and in this way they are also writing history. So they are not only giving importance on the political issues, but also they are giving importance on social, religious, and different perspectives and different issues like religious, cultural, economic, history. So in this way, the scope of history is very, very much important nowadays. Okay? Then another important perspective I have to discuss. According to
Is this historical relativism concept first developed in USA?
historical relativism, the concept which was developed, it has already given the information. Historical relativism in the European concept, okay? But some historians like Professor Elton or other historians, okay, they belong to, I think that historical relativism started it is the European concept. Like could mention is American concept only.
सर गोटे बुक रे सर मैं देखिଥିଲି सर अमेरिका आज्ञा सर
Okay. କୋଉ ବହିରେ?
सर गोटे न्यू ऑथर आछंती तांको बुक टा को सर एस राय चौधरी बोली सर
Okay. সেটা পয়েন্ট আউট করিব। Okay. Historical relativism. This concept which was introduced or denoted by the American historians, you may mention. Okay, you just give the reference. Then another important perspective, that is according to Chinese program, the great man is a public misfortune, is a common man who has played the vital role in assisting the great man, as you know, to achieve the fame. So what is the according to the Chinese program, the great man is a public misfortune, is the common man who has played the vital role in assisting the great man to achieve the fame. Okay, so could you understand my point? So the historians are always, we know that the great man is a public misfortune, but it is the common man who has played the vital role assisting the great man to achieve the fame. It means the common men were playing very important role and pivotal role. Understand my point? For example, the Industrial Revolution. Just have to give one example. Industrial Revolution. Why did the Industrial Revolution happen? And what are the role of the capitalist group? The workers that demanded, we're also discussing about the workers were exploited by the capitalist group. It is stated that without exploitation, it can't possible to develop the industrial sector. So the industrial sector or a company can develop if you exploit the workers. It does not mean that the workers were exploited in fully. No. Without exploitation, it can't possible to develop your company. But the common people are playing, the workers were playing very important role for the development of the industrial sector. So far the matter is concerned in human resource. Human resource means the physical resource and as well as the human resource. What is the difference between physical resource and human resource? What is the difference? Who can give the answer?
सर
Physical resources and human resource. Yes?
सर मनुष्य निजे ही ह्यूमन रिसोर्सेस सर एंड सर मनुष्य बादे सर आज जोड़ा को सर सॉर्ट ऑफ फिजिकल रिसोर्सेस.
Okay, just time to give example. Human resources means your knowledge, your skill, okay, and your attitude, your behavior, your personality, everything. Your adequate or your body language, your knowledge or the skills. That is human resources. Okay, your communicative skill, different types of skills are there. Technical skill, diagnostic skill, okay, communicative skill, and different skills are there. Conceptual skills. So that is called the human resources. Human resources means your knowledge. Human resource means your ideas. You have to exercise your best ideas for development of the industrial sector. So physical resources means, the natural resources like water, bauxite, coal mining, etc. Physical resources. So without human resource, is it possible to develop your company? Never. That's why it has been stated that the common people are playing very pivotal role for amelioration of the industrial sector in a very, very systematic manner, in a very, very persuasive manner. Because without participation of the common people, without participation of the workers, is it possible to develop your company? Never. That's why the historians are given, during that time, nowadays, the historians are also giving importance on the common people's view, the common people's role for the development of the society. So we're talking about the achievement of the great men. How could it possible? The great men achieved, or there is a tremendous position in the world. Without indulging, without the workers' participation, it's quite impossible to develop your industry or the company. That's why it has been stated that, according to Chinese proverb, that the great man is a public misfortune, but it is common man, the common man, who has played the vital role in assisting the great man to achieve the fame. Understand my point? So, the common men are playing very important role, and the rank and the file of the Napoleon, as you know, the Napoleon Bonaparte. If we discuss about the Napoleon Bonaparte or Hitler or the great personalities, they're all depending upon the soldiers. Without the soldiers, without the army of the soldiers, was it possible to conquer the entire world or entire Europe? Never. So in this way, the common people intensive study of the rural setup and the minute examination of every element in society is called the microhistory, which is becoming very popular in modern times. So far, the study of economics, social change is gaining greater prominence in the recent years. In this way, the labor movement, the class struggle, the international trade, the art, craft, industry, business, commerce, agriculture, peasant movement, and so on, are receiving the increasing attention, like by social reform, caste, class distinction, family life, position of women, customs, manner, and way of life is exciting the present of the historians. Understand my point? The historians are also visualizing, or the historians are always trying to explain about the social reforms, about the caste, about the class distinctions, about the family life, about the position of a woman, and the customs and the manners in different perspectives. That's why Mr. The great historian, Ibn Khaldun, have you heard the name of Ibn Khaldun? Ibn Khaldun was called the father of universal history. Ibn Khaldun was called, is called the father of IBN, Khaldun, Khaldum. Ibn Khaldun, was called the father of universal history. Father of universal history. And he had also pointed out one most important thing, during that period, during that time, what happened? He said, science of culture, it means the philosophy of history has made subject of history very profound. You may give example of Hegel, Marx, Comte, Sprenger, Croce, Tanby have contributed much to the philosophy of history. Philosophy of history, common define question, the philosophy of history. Philosophy of history, has been narrated by or has been explained by, Hegel, Marx, Comte, Sprenger, Croce, Tanby. These historians, these philosophers were playing very important role for the philosophy of history. So in this way, what happened? It has clearly mentioned about the historicism. Philosophy history common na Hegel, Marx, Comte, Spengler, Proce, Toynbee.
Watching IPL without any tension.
They had given importance on philosophy of history.
हेगेल कुप्टर ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ କୋ ଡାଉଟ୍ ଥିଲା ହେଗେଲ କୁପ୍ଟେ ଆଉ ସ୍ପେଙ୍ଗଲର
Hegel, Marx, Comte, Spengler, Proce.
ଏଥିରେ କୋଉଥରେ ମାନେ କୋଉଥରେ ବିଲଙ୍ଗ କରୁଛନ୍ତି sir?
They are all the great thinkers, the philosophy of history. They have contributed. Hegel, Marx, Comte, Spengler, Proce, Toynbee have contributed much to the philosophy of history.
ସେଇଟା ବି ଗୋଟେ ମାନେ କମ୍ବାଇନ୍ଡ ମୋଟିଭ କି ଚାକିରି ୱିଥ୍ ମାନେ ଇଏ କରିବେ କ'ଣ ହେଲା
ଇତିହାସ ଦର୍ଶନ ସମ୍ବନ୍ଧରେ ସେମାନେ କ'ଣ ତାଙ୍କର ଅବଦାନ ହେଉଛି ଚିରସ୍ମରଣୀୟ। ଇତିହାସ ଦର୍ଶନ ଉପରେ ସେ ଫୋକସ୍ କରୁଥିଲେ। ବୁଝିଲା? ତାପରେ ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ନେକ୍ସଟ ଆନ୍ ଇମ୍ପୋର୍ଟାଣ୍ଟ ପଏଣ୍ଟ ଆଇ ଟୁ ଡିସ୍କସ୍ historicism. What is historicism? What is historicism? Historicism means tracing the growth and development of an event from its early stages. Could you understand what is historicism? Historicism means tracing the growth and development of an event from its early stages. Historicism means tracing the growth and development of an event from its early stages. Okay?
Please sir repeat again.
Historicism means tracing the growth and development of an event from its early stages. Okay? That is called historicism. Very important point to ଆମେ କିଏ କହୁଥିଲ the scope of history ଟା the scope of history କିଏ କହୁଥିଲ ତୁମ ନାଁ କୁହ ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ଯୋଉଟା historical relativism very important point you have mentioned here କିଏ କହୁଥିଲ historical relativism এটা আমেরিকান কনসেপ্ট
सर
କିଏ
वो
କହୁଥିଲେ
सर
ନା
सर
କୁହ
ମୁଁ କହୁଥିଲି सर ଅବିନାଶ ପାତ୍ର
ଆଚ୍ଛା ଆଚ୍ଛା ତମେ ସେ ରେଫରେନ୍ସ ଟା ତମେ ଲେଖିବ the scope of history was further widened when attempts were made and particularly the United States of America to develop a new concept called historical relativism. Okay? କାହା ପାଖରେ ବହି ଅଛି ବିଶେଖଲିର anybody ବିଶେଖଲି ବୁକ୍ସ କାହା ପାଖରେ ଅଛି
ସାର୍ ମୋ ପାଖରେ ଅଛି
पेज नंबर 19 रो लास्ट पारा पेज नंबर 19 लास्ट पारा देखो देख लो लास्ट सेंटेंस पेज नंबर 19 ସେଥିରେ ମେନସନ କରାଯାଇଛି the historical relativism particularly. Okay, very important question. The scope of history was further widened and when attempts were made particularly in the United States of America to develop a new concept called historical relativism. Okay, ये तो डाउट क्लियर ये तो मेंशन कर दी पूरा विषय कलिंगर बुक से मेंशन कराई चे द हिस्टोरिकल रिलेटिविज्म टा होची कार कांसेप्ट अमेरिकन कांसेप्ट यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स ऑफ अमेरिका
सर बुधा सर से से विषय कल्ली को फॉलो करी लिखछथि आ
हां सेटा लिखा है पूरा ये पेज नंबर 9 इज वेरी इंपोर्टेंट है तुम रेफरेंस टा दबो सब रे जे कौन सी जिंस को प्रूफ करे को हमको रेफरेंस दवा बुझेला जन सेटा लिखो विषय कल्ली पेज नंबर 19 लास्ट पारा दे हला
आगे सर
डाउट क्लियर तापर आउट बहुत इंपोर्टेंट जिंस some questions will discuss I have already discussed some important scope of the history, but we have to discuss about what is history, who wrote, what is history.
ओडिशा हिस्ट्री
H car H car
आ सेटा तो सब्जेक्टिव होची ना
Very nice. As I have already discussed, the father of scientific method. Who is considered as the father of scientific method?
Thucydides.
सर Thucydides
Thank you.
fellow connection or first
Another important question of the discuss. So, Iliad and Odyssey. As जानते हो, Iliad and Odyssey. It is written by Homer. Excellent. Thank you. Very nice. Then, the science of very important thing I have to discuss.
सेटा कोट देखिए
Who said that in the science of politics is the one science
हिस्ट्री अच्छी है थ्रे
that is
लेखा तो है
deposited by the stream of history
6000
like the grains of gold
कितना
in the sands of a river.
खाली हिस्ट्री नहीं थी खाली हिस्ट्री ना थी
Who said?
हिस्ट्री ज्योग्राफी पॉलिटी इकोनॉमी आर्ट कल्चर
सर
Polybius.
The science of politics is the one science that is deposited by the stream of history like the grains of gold in the sands of a river.
Polybius.
No, that is Lord Acton. Lord Acton said the science of politics is the one science that is deposited by the stream of history like the grains of gold in the sands of a river. Lord Acton.
सर please repeat again sir definition
Very important definition, please write down. The science of politics is the one science. The science of politics is the one science that is deposited by the stream of history,
ट्रेन देखो कोठी लानी ट्रेन आइला कटक पहुंचले
deposited by the stream of
चलो सेपटे
history like the grains of gold,
गाड़ी का भाई नहीं थी
like the grains of gold
सुनो गाड़ी
in the sands of a river.
सर नुआ ना गुजे
आइले जीवा
It's a most important definition. ये Lord Acton लगे थे.
सर
कोई भी
Sir, also like the grain of
of gold in
After Koji, the science of politics is the one science that is deposited by the stream of history like the grains of gold in the sands of a river. Sand, S-A-N-D-S, sands of a river. According to Lord Acton. So another an eminent person who said history gives us the third dimension of political science. History gives us the third dimension of political science. Who said? Professor Willock by. Professor Willock, W-I-L-L-O-U-G-H, Willock by, B-Y.
ସାର୍ ତ ନୂଆ ସବୁ ଲାଗୁଛି ଆଉ
History gives us the third dimensions of political science. History gives us the third dimensions of political science.
Sir, who said?
Professor Willong Bai. Willong is W-I-L-L-O-G-U. Like Professor Willong. W-I-L-L-O-U-G-H-B-Y. Willong Bai. Professor Willong Bai said, history gives us the third dimension of political science. Okay?
Okay, sir.
Okay. So another important point I want to discuss. The famous historian, very famous historian, he said that is past master in strong telling. History is called the past master in strong telling. Who is considered as a past master? Atitar master will come.
Sir, history is called.
Who is considered as past master in storytelling? Who is considered as a past master in in storytelling?
Sir, history.
Past master ke past master
History.
Augustine yes.
Definition that audio.
Who is considered as a past master in storytelling? Storytelling was T-E-L-L-I-N-G, telling story. Okay. Who is considered as a past master in storytelling? Herodotus. अच्छा ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ଜିନିଷ very important ଜିନିଷ ତ ଜାଣିଛ ନା ଜାଣିନି the city of God କିଏ ଲେଖିଥିଲେ? Who had written the city of God?
ଲିଭିନା ସାର୍ ତାକୁ
Friend of science.
ତାକୁ କୁହାଗଲା D civitas Dei, Latin words D civitas Dei, D-I. Why it was called city of God, which was written by whom?
ଲିଭିନା ଟାସିଟସ୍
City of God.
Liviable. Saint Augustine.
Yes, Augustine. Okay, Saint Augustine. Saint Augustine had written the city of God, or De Civitas Dei. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. ଆଉ ଚାରି ପାଞ୍ଚଟା କ୍ୱେଶ୍ଚିନ୍ ଡିସ୍କସନ୍ କରିଦେବା।
ସାର୍ କାଲି 100ଟା କ୍ୱେଶ୍ଚିନ୍ ରହିବ, କାଲି କେବଳ ହିଷ୍ଟୋଗ୍ରାଫି ଉପରେ ରହିବ।
ପୁରା ଖାଲି ହିଷ୍ଟୋଗ୍ରାଫି ଉପରେ ମୁଁ 100ଟା କ୍ୱେଶ୍ଚିନ୍ ତିଆରି କରିଛି, 100 କ୍ୱେଶ୍ଚିନ୍ସ। ତେଣୁ ବହୁତ 4-5ଟା ବହିରୁ ଫଲୋ କରି ବହୁତ ରେଫରେନ୍ସ ଆଣି ମୁଁ ତାକୁ ତିଆରି କରିଛି। ଭେରି ଇମ୍ପୋର୍ଟାଣ୍ଟ ସେଗୁଡ଼ା ଯେ ପଢ଼ିଦେବ, ଯୋଉଟା କି
ତାର ଭିତରେ କ୍ୱେଶ୍ଚିନ୍ ଆଉ
ହଁ ମୁଁ ଏକ୍ସାମ୍ପଲ୍ ବି ଦେଇଛି ବହୁତ ଜିନିଷ, ତମେ ବି ଦେଖିବ ପୁରା।
ସିଟି ଅଫ୍ ଗଡ୍ ରିଟନ୍ ବାଇ ହୋମ୍ ସାର୍?
ଦେଖ ସିଟି ଅଫ୍ ଗଡ୍ ରିବୁକ୍ ସେଣ୍ଟ ଅଗଷ୍ଟାଇନ୍ ପା।
ଅଗଷ୍ଟାଇନ୍ ସାର୍, ଓକେ ଥ୍ୟାଙ୍କ ୟୁ ସାର୍।
ଓକେ, ତାପରେ ଆଉ ଭେରି ଭେରି ଇମ୍ପୋର୍ଟାଣ୍ଟ, who wrote Hindu polity? Hindu polity was written by whom? The great historian.
କେପି ଜୟସୱାଲ। ହିନ୍ଦୁ ପୋଲି।
Thank you. Bikash.
Agya,
Bikash Budha.
ଆଜ୍ଞା ସାର୍।
Thank you. Very important question. Hindu polity, which was written by P. Jaiswal.
1918 ବୋଧେ ଆଉ 1918।
Yes.
Please repeat it, sir.
Okay. Who wrote Hindu polity? Who wrote Hindu polity?
Sir, who wrote?
Okay. P. Jaiswal. Who wrote Hindu polity? P. Jaiswal.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Another important personality read, history is a science of special kind. Who wrote? Who said, history is a science of special kind? History is a science of special kind. Collingwood କହିଥିଲେ କିଏ କହିଲେ Collingwood. R.J. Collingwood pointed out that history is a science of special kind. Okay?
Science.
Of special kind. Okay? এই টাইপର ତମର କ୍ୱେଶ୍ଚିନ୍ ଆସିବ ଯୋଉ ଟାଇପର ମୁଁ ତୁମକୁ କହିଲି ସମସ୍ତେ ପଢିବ ଭଲ କରି ମୁଁ ବାରମ୍ବାର ବି କହିଛି ବିଷୟ କଲି ପଢିବ କେଏଲ ଖୁରାନା ଇ ଶ୍ରୀଧରନ ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ସାର୍ ଲେଖିଛନ୍ତି ହିଷ୍ଟୋରିକାଲ ମେଥଡ୍ସ ଉପରେ ଅକ୍ଷୟ କୁମାର ମିଶ୍ର ସେ ବହି ତମ ପାଖେ ଥିବ ନା ନାହିଁ ମୁଁ ଜାଣିନି ସେଇଟା ବି ଯଦି ଫଲୋ ଅପ୍ କରିପାରିବ ଏତିକି ପଢିଲେ ତମେ କ୍ୱେଶ୍ଚିନ୍ ଆନ୍ସର ପାଇପାରିବ
ପ୍ରତିବର୍ଷ ସାର୍ 7 ମାର୍କ ଆସୁଛି ହିଷ୍ଟ୍ରି ନେଚର ସ୍କୋପ ପ୍ରତିବର୍ଷ
ଆଉ ପ୍ରତିବର୍ଷ 5-6ଟା 7ଟା କ୍ୱେଶ୍ଚିନ୍ ଆସୁଛି ପୁରା ହେଲା ତେଣୁ ଏଇ ବହି ବୁକ୍ସ ଯେ ଫଲୋ ଅପ୍ କରିବ 100% ଗୋଟା ମନେ କର ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ମୁଁ ଗୋଟେ ଏକ୍ସାମ୍ପଲ ଦେଇ ଦଉଛି ପଭର୍ଟି ଅଫ ହିଷ୍ଟୋରିସିଜମ କିଏ ଲେଖିଲେ ପଭର୍ଟି ଅଫ ହିଷ୍ଟୋରିସିଜମ
कार्ल पॉपर
ପୁର କିଏ କହିଲ ଆନ୍ସରଟି what is your name please କିଏ କହିଲ poverty of historicism
सर किए लिखते
ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ଆନ୍ସର ଯିଏ କହିଲେ କଣ ତମ ନା କୁହ ଭଲ ଥ୍ୟାଙ୍କ ୟୁ ଭଲ ଆନ୍ସର ଦେଲ କୁହ ନା ଟିକେ କୁହ ହଁ
आंसर टा कौन होगा सर इस प्रॉपर्टी ऑफ हिस्टोरिज्म
काल्पी पेपर्स
Sir, Kalpi.
KARL कार्ल P पेपर PAPAR ओके
धन्यवाद सर.
काल्पी पेपर पॉवर्टी ऑफ हिस्टोरिसिज्म
सर आउथोरिटी की कोई भी स्पेलिंग सर
KARL कार्ल तापर लिखिबो P ठीक आइपेन देखि P तापर लिखिबो पेपर PAPAR पेपर काल्पी पेपर wrote poverty of historicism
थैंक यू
okay
सर हिस्टोग्राफी
yes.
को बुक कोई ठीक ना तो देबे
मैं
हिस्टोग्राफी
कहली बारंबार ई श्रीधरन ए टेक्स्ट बुक ऑफ हिस्टोरियोग्राफी ओके आवडेला केएल खुराना बीसे कॉली तापरे आउजन सार हम लिखिचंती अक्षय कुमार मिश्र हिस्टोरिकल थ्योरीज एंड मेथड्स
ओके सर धन्यवाद
एती पढ़ला माने तो पाइजो सब हला तेणु बहुत किसी क्वेश्चन बनैसी 100% तेन तो मन सब देखबा केते क्वेश्चन को ई करछ एती स्कोप वाला स्कोप हो जे पॉइंट्स जीव स्कोप रहउची बेसी वेरी वाइडन आ के कोन कहले सब जिंस हला
अरे
many question if you ask any question you may ask
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद सर वेरी नाइस क्लास
okay
थैंक यू सर नाइस एलाबोरेट सर
thank you sir but another important thing is yes political history economic history social history legal history ये सब तुम सिलेबस रही कि डिप्लोमेटिक हिस्ट्री इंटेलेक्चुअल हिस्ट्री
सर हम तो ऑब्जेक्टिव रहइबो तो ऑब्जेक्टिविटी ରହିପାରିବ
ଅବଜେକ୍ଟିଭ ରହିପାରିବ ତମର ପଲିଟିକାଲ ହିଷ୍ଟ୍ରି ସୋସିଆଲ ହିଷ୍ଟ୍ରି ମନେକର ସୋସିଆଲ ହିଷ୍ଟ୍ରିରେ ଆମର ଆସି ଯାଉଛନ୍ତି ଟ୍ରେଭେଲେନ୍ ଯୋଉଟା ମୁଁ ତମକୁ ପଢୁ ଡିସ୍କସନ କରୁଥିଲି ତାପରେ ଆମର ପି ଜୟସ୍ୱାଲ ଯୋଉଟା ଲେଖିଲେ ହିନ୍ଦୁ ପଲିଟି ଏରା ହଉଛି କଣ ଏରା ହଉଛି ସୋସିଆଲ ହିଷ୍ଟ୍ରି ହେଲା ଯୋଉଟା କି ତମ ଆନ୍ସର ଅଲରେଡି ତମକୁ ମଧ୍ୟ କ୍ୱେଶ୍ଚିନ୍ ୟା ଉପରେ ମଧ୍ୟ ତିଆରି କରିଛି ତେଣୁ ତମମାନେ ପଢିବ ସୋସିଆଲ ହିଷ୍ଟ୍ରି ଇକୋନୋମିକ ହିଷ୍ଟ୍ରି ଉପରେ ଲିଗାଲ ହିଷ୍ଟ୍ରି ଉପରେ ତା ଭିତରୁ ମଧ୍ୟ ମୁଁ କ୍ୱେଶ୍ଚିନ୍ ଦେଇଛି ତେଣୁ ତମ ଆଗରୁ ମୁଁ କହିଦଉଛି ତମେ ଏରା ଟିକେ ପଢିଦବ ହେଲା
Thank you, sir.
ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ଦେଇଛି ପେଲୋପୋନେନ୍ସିଆଲ ୱାର ତମେ ଜାଣିଥିବ ମୁଁ ତମକୁ କହିଛି ଆଗରୁ ବି ମଧ୍ୟ ତ ସେଇଟା ବି ଟିକେ ପଢିଦବ ହେଲା ଲିଗାଲ ହିଷ୍ଟ୍ରି ତା ଭିତରୁ ମଧ୍ୟ କ୍ୱେଶ୍ଚିନ୍ ଆସିବ ଓକେ
କେହି କପି କରିବନି ବିନା ଇଏରେ ନିଜ ଓନରେ ଆଜିଠାରୁ ରାତିରେ ଆଜି ପଢ କାଲି ପ୍ରିପେୟାର ହେଇଯାଅ କାଲି ପାଇଁ ଟେଷ୍ଟ
Sir, କୋଉ ୱାର୍ଡ ଗୋଟେ କହିଲେ ମେଟ୍ରୋପଲିଟାନ ୱାର୍ଡ
ପେଲୋପୋନେନ୍ସିଆଲ ୱାର ନା
ସରି ଥୁସିଡାଇଡିସ୍
ପେଲୋପୋନେନ୍ସିଆଲ ୱାର କିଏ ଲେଖିଥିଲେ
ଥୁସିଡାଇଡିସ୍ ସାଇଣ୍ଟିଫିକ
ଖାଲି ଥୁସିଡାଇଡିସ୍ ଲେଖିଥିଲେ ଦି ଜଣ ରାଇଟର ଲେଖିଥିଲେ ଦି ଜଣ ଐତିହାସିକ ଆଉ କିଏ
ବୋଲିଭିୟସ୍ ଥୁସିଡାଇଡିସ୍ ବୋଲିଭିୟର
ବୋଲିଭିୟର ବୋଲି କୋଉ ଲେଖା ହେଇଛି କିଏ କହିପାରିବ କୋଉଠି ରେଫରେନ୍ସ ଲେଖା ହେଇଛି ମତେ କହିବ ବୋଲିଭିୟର ଲେଖିଥିଲେ ବୋଲି ବୋଲିଭିୟର କିଏ କୋଉ ବହିଟା ପଢିଛ ଥୁସିଡାଇଡିସ୍ ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ କିଏ କ୍ଲେରେଣ୍ଡୁ ମନେ ରଖ ଏଟା ଭୁଲ ଭାଲ ଇନଫର୍ମେସନ ତମେ ଦବନି ରେଫରେନ୍ସ ବୁକ୍ ତମେ ବିଶେ କଲିର ବହି ସରି ତମର ଡକ୍ଟର କେଏଲ ଖୁରାନା ଲେଖିଛନ୍ତି ପେଜ ନମ୍ବର 21 ପେଜ ନମ୍ବର 11 ରେ ରେଫରେନ୍ସ ଦିଆଯାଇଛି ଥୁସିଡାଇଡିସ୍ ଆଣ୍ଡ କ୍ଲାରେଣ୍ଡୁ ଏ ଦି ଜଣ ଲେଖିଥିଲେ ଦ ହିଷ୍ଟ୍ରି ଅଫ ଦି Peloponnesian War ये थुसिडाइडिस लिखले और क्लेरेंडू कौन लिखले द ग्रेट रेबेलियन रेस्पेक्टिवली दी जन लिखले थुसिडाइडिस लिखले द हिस्ट्री ऑफ पेलोपोनेशियन वॉर आ तापरे क्लेरेंडू लिखले द ग्रेट रेबेलियन रेस्पेक्ट हैला
यस सर
आउ जन लिखले चंद्राबादरे कौन लिखले पृथ्वीराज रसो एटा भी क्वेश्चन आसी पारे
आगे
पृथ्वीराज रसो के लिखिथिले हां यस चंद्राबरदाई लिखले पृथ्वीराज रसो हैला द मोस्ट ऑफ द मुगल रूलर्स
पृथ्वीराज रसो कौन लिखथिले सर आउथरे
पृथ्वीराज रसो was written by चंद्राबरदाई
about
चंद्राबरदाई कंपोज पृथ्वीराज रसो
हाँ
रसो
सर क्लेरेंडू जो लिखथिले सेटा कौन लिखते द ग्रेट
द
रिवॉल्यूशन
ग्रेट रेबेलियन
सर पेज नंबर ता केते कहले
पेज नंबर 11 डॉक्टर केएल खुराना हिस्टोरियोग्राफी ओके रेफरेंस
सर एइथरो जा जाना पड़ो जी थुसिडाइडिस वार से लिखिले पूर्व क्लेरेंडू रिबेलियन ता आगे लिखि
क्लेरेंडू ता सुनो तुम क्वेश्चन पढिबो मन कर पला द ग्रेट रेबेलियन वाज रिटन बाय हु
हां क्लेरेंडू
पटा पड़ले क्लेरेंडू पढिबो द हिस्ट्री ऑफ पेलोपोनेशियन वार
थुसिडाइडिस सर आउट कथा मोर डाउट राउस जो क्लेरेंडू थुसिडाइडिस मो मत क्लेरेंडू ही आगो द ग्रेट रिबेलियन लिखि दिबे तापर जाय कि थुसिडाइडिस द हिस्ट्री ऑफ द पेलोपोनेशियन वार लिखि दिबे
हां थुसिडाइडिस
थैंक यू
ओके
आज्ञा सर बहुत धन्यवाद सर थैंक यू
ऑल द बेस्ट
थैंक यू सर नाइस एलाबोरेशन नमस्कार थैंक यू सर
दंडवत प्रणाम सर दंडवत प्रणाम
बिकॉज़ वे क्लास रिकॉर्डिंग टा के करथिबे कि छाड़िबे
प्लान कर
क्लास भलो थिला हां क्लास बहुत भलो थिला
ग्रुप
हेलो
रे टिके
ଟିକେ ଗ୍ରୁପ ରେ ରେକର୍ଡିଂ ଟା ଛାଡି ଦେବେ ଟିକେ ଭାଇ
କରିଛ ଛାଡ଼ି ଦିଅ କି ଯେ କରିଛ ଛାଡ଼ି ଦିଅ ମୁଁ ଜମା କ୍ଲାସ में ଜଏନ୍ करने बोल रहे
हां बिकॉज़ मैं ଟିକେ क्लास करे
ये जति के हलानी आर इते
हां बॉडी में ଟିକେ रेकॉर्डिंग टा ठीक छाडନ୍ତୁ रेकॉर्डिंग के करिसंती
ये हेलो मु ଟିକେ मते जॉइन करबे कि ग्रुप रे प्लीज
हां
हेलो
लेट हो गाड़ी जा
प्लीज न्यूली ये जो जॉइन करे तो क्लास ये मते ऐड करबे कि एडमिन अछि बोले
जा काढो आर कटलो का
लेट हो मु करना ना
अच्छा विकास भाई
हां
हां
हेलो हां जो ट्रेवलियन कोन डाकितले मु लेखिनी सेटा टिके कहिबे मते
मौसम में
चले
लेखिछन से जति
मु तो